Bernières outside of the famous Canada House. So that one's well known, right? The story's very well known. It used to be called the Queen's Own Rifles House because this is where the Queen's Own Rifles landed. So of course the house has been renovated since then, right? It took a lot of damage, but this is the spot, very well known. But also a lot of Canadian blood was spilled right on this pretty small section of beach. And then you can see over here for some wayfinding, that way is Ulstermere, way down there. And there's the memorial for the landings. And then there's just a little parking lot in between these buildings where you can park if you can come get a chance to park there in the busier times. In behind Canada House is where the train station used to be. There's some footage there taken of who I assume is a Frenchman taking a German helmet near some POWs and slamming it on the ground. However, why this is also an interesting spot is Charlie Martin, who was the company sergeant major of 8 Company, landed right around here as well. There is a pillbox there, kind of that rounded area. You can walk up to it afterwards. And then it's a brook up there, it's hard to see, but it's over there. And then an artillery emplacement and another set of memorials is up there off the promenade. So around here, the seawall was anywhere, according to Martin, 14 feet to 6 feet. Obviously that's not the case anymore. It doesn't really need to be at this spot. I saw this beach pretty much at its worst yesterday, and it still didn't need it to be much higher. The Germans made it higher, right? But he describes a high number of casualties, right? Because he puts in his map 2 emplacements right around here. They're obviously gone now. And 3 Tobruks, which are, 1 has remained, and then his map doesn't show the artillery position up there in that bunker that they've used for refuge in the rain and the wind. So right around here is where 8 Company comes in, along with other members of the Queen's Own Rifles. And they took a lot of casualties. I saw a fair number of them at Benny, but this beach itself was under extremely heavy fire from the Germans. And you can see right now the tide is slowly coming back in. I'm not going to stand out here too much longer, but it's good to come out here, see it from the perspective of the troops when they would have been coming off the boats. And this is one of those spots. So this area here is also important, still outside of Canada House, is a lot of troops came in here, and not just on D-Day itself, right? They had to come through these captured areas. It's kind of the point, right? To bring in the reinforcements right away on D-Day itself, or more units landing in, right? They'd come in right here. There's photos of, ships being left from the high tide and some landing craft from the landings, that kind of thing. Some wrecks. So all right around here is where they were coming in. As you can see, the tides are quite dramatic here. Lots of room to move. The high water mark. I don't know if you can really see it as well, but right around kind of where those rocks are, you can see almost a line of them. It's really the high water mark. So lots of room to come in, also with the tides to contend to. As you can see, it's coming in, so I don't want to stand out here too much longer. It's a spot of where a lot of Canadians came in to go fight inland. And a lot of them came in way down that way. Way down that way. Closer to Armagh. Of course, all the way on the other side, right where the Juno Beach Center, some of them also came in, but also like the poles came in that way. So yeah, you can get a good view of this stuff at really low tide, of kind of getting their perspective. And of course that way is St. Aubin. So I'm out here again at what is becoming increasingly high tide. Still out on the beach. On a short I did about the famous footage taken down to the left of Canada House here, facing it, at St. Aubin on the North Shore. Someone asked why a bunch of landmines didn't go off when they got off the landing craft. Well, the conditions have a lot to do with that. You can't put landmines in a spot where they're not going to stay still, right? Like I can kick at this stuff. Like the tide would move all kinds of stuff through here, right? That'd be really heavy to stay in place, and landmines would not do that, right? The tide is also very intense here, so you can't do that. It wouldn't work, right? The Germans thought the Allies would come at high tide to to not have to cross such an expansive beach. So they put a whole bunch of defenses out here, right? Check hedgehogs, teller mines on poles to hopefully landcraft would hit, which unfortunately did happen right around this area. The tide started to come up because there was a delay in the landings. And landing craft carrying Judith hit down a fair number of them. Also because it was back up right around this area, because the fighting inland had not moved as fast as they wanted it to. Artillery started coming down on these positions. So that's what happens when you go at high tide, is you get the defenses. So at low tide, you can come in and avoid them and see them. However, things like landmines are not going to work in an area like this. Just not going to happen. So walking along near Canada House, which is right over there, I'm walking towards one of the Tobruks up here, which was used for machine gun positions. As you can see, it got a good field of fire at low tide. Now, people seem to think that that first major scene in Saving Private Ryan is how every landing went everywhere. And for the most cases, that's not true. That's not what happened. Here, however, unfortunately, the Queen's Own Rifles in Canada, that's exactly what happened. Walking towards one of the positions right now that caused lots of casualties. There was also all kinds of concrete defenses, barbed wire, all throughout here, causing all kinds of casualties. Right in where those condos are in the shops, there was a minefield that also caused a fair number of casualties. So Charlie Martin in his book talks about coming ashore here, what it was like, getting in behind and into one of those minefields. He also talks about the high number of casualties caused. And these positions are one of the reasons why. So that's the Tobruk. Over there you can see an artillery position. It used to house a gun. It's empty now. It's kind of using it as a shelter before. But that has an enfilade position on the beach, right? It's not facing out to sea, as people seem to think these quote-unquote bunkers were supposed to do. Face out to sea and shoot at the whatever's coming their way. However, that was not the plan. The plan was to hit them in the enfilade once they got on shore, and that's what they did. Because as you can see from this angle, the concrete facing the channel is much, much thicker than the other sides. Because that's the plan. If you face out to sea, you're going to have all kinds of trouble. If you face this way, not so much. And again, these are pretty small targets. People tend to forget that. Saying, why isn't all this stuff destroyed before they come ashore? They try. The navies never said that they could do it. People seem to think nowadays they should be able to. I don't know. Maybe they have modern war in their head, or the massed bomb cities of, say, Germany in mind. But that's not the case here. They had a short amount of time to do these bombardments from air and sea. And as you can tell, these positions survived and were intact. Like trying to hit a Tobruk from how many miles away? That's just crazy. Not gonna happen. Or even a house, right? Canada House right there. Survived it all. So again, these are very small targets. Good luck taking them out from so far away, up or across the sea. And here you can just see the thickness of this concrete. Very difficult to get through. Now here may be some battle damage again, I don't know 100%. But this certainly looks like it. I don't know from what. Maybe from the Fort Garry horse, the tanks. Maybe later, I don't know. But it didn't do much. And this is the other side of the damage. Nothing. Didn't do a whole lot. Currently in the bunker. It's a little squish for me. But there you can see Canada House there. Up on the left, There are these little beach huts, and there's the beach itself. I'm not a gunner, not a soldier, but it looks like a pretty good field of fire to me. And there you can see that Tobruk. And here's the emplacement for the gun. Sorry I can't get much better angle here. My head's literally squished against the ceiling. So, trying my best, but this is the position for the gun. And I assume storage positions and things like that. Cut into the rock, because I've seen them in other bunkers as well. And there's one much further down the beach at St. Aubin, with the gun still in place, which you can also go inside. So that's pretty interesting to be able to do. But again, this is a really good field of fire in trying to hold the beach, especially when the seawall is much higher than it is today. So I'm moving in behind Canada House, so you can see it there on the right side, piece of the memorial there. So that's the train station there. You see the Canadian flags and that little rounded part. That's the train station. So this is where Charlie Martin comes through. He talks about this extensively in Battle Diary. If you haven't read it, you should. If you're just even interested in D-Day, then it's one to read. It's one of the better known memoirs of Canada's war. He fights obviously past Normandy and is wounded later on. But this is where they had some difficulty as well. And it's not just what's at the immediate shore that can cause the problems. Things like landmines can stop in advance. But that's the train station right there. So right in front of it are several pillboxes, causing all kinds of problems. Now on the other side, there's a parking lot and that kind of thing over there. It was a heavily strewn minefield, causing all kinds of trouble for them when they came off. Also further into the town itself, in Bernières, was a machine gun position. So even if you get off the beach, get through the landmines and the barbed wire, you could still be cut down by a machine gun inside the town. So further in, you can see the church there. According to Martin's map, it's just to the right of the church in town. So this is one of my favorite pieces of footage from D-Day, because it's a funny piece. There's a bunch of POWs standing right around here, and a Canadian's guarding them, and a French gentleman who's carrying an American flag is yelling at them, picks up a helmet, and then slams it back down. And it's outside the train station, which is this building right here, which now appears to be a florist and decoration shop. So this was the old train station, and then that's Canada House right there to kind of give you some bearings. Pretty funny piece of footage. So in one of the Canadian Army newsreels, they're showing some of the armor and other vehicles coming ashore. It's right around here. Also there was marking for the beach exit put up right here by a smiling soldier. So it's very interesting that such a place that was almost a hell on earth, just a little bit before, was already open and taking in more troops and vehicles to continue to push